You're listening to the Energy Trade Show podcast with your host, Ben Seligson. Find him on the trade show floor at conferences nationwide to get the true behind the scenes of what's really happening at the events you want to attend in the energy industry. Let's get started.
You're listening to the Energy Trade Show podcast. We're coming at you live from OTC 2025, and I am joined here by Dr. Daere Akobo with PANA Holdings. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
And thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Tell me what you're doing here at OTC.
Well, first and foremost, my name is Dr. Daere Akobo. I'm the chairman of PANA Holdings. PANA Holdings is a business platform that covers a wide range of the oil and gas industry, or you call it the energy industry or petroleum industry, from subsea all the way to the ship. Coming to OTC affords us, of course, as the name implies, Offshore Technology Conference is actually to come and scan technology that will provide innovative solution to the exploration and then, of course, the exploitation of the resources. So it's more or less bridging the gap. So that's basically why we're here. And also to tell the world what Africa is doing and how we can actually have a smooth handshake.
And you, on your website, you have one of my favorite quotes, which is, "A dream without a deadline is a nightmare." What does that mean to you?
Yes, for us is that the biggest challenge in life is timing. So if you want to be successful, you need to have a purpose. But a purpose that does not take you to the end of the whole thing is like you are dreaming. And then it will be a nightmare because you want to be, just for instance, you say you want to go to the US. But what time do you want to get to the US? Otherwise, you will just be in one position. There will be no motion. And nature aborts vacuum. So I always tell people that whatever you want to do, put a deadline and work towards a deadline.
I love that.
Without a deadline is a nightmare.
That's great. So we talk about, and on my show and the energy shows we talk about energy transition a lot. I know that Africa is going through their own energy transition, and you're working with that initiative. Can you tell me a little more about maybe some similarities or what's going on there?
So the term or the phrase energy transition means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But of course you understand the divide, depending on where it is. Are you on the supply side or on the demand side? But for us in Africa, one of the predominant and abundant resources is, of course, the fossil fuel. And then what is more important is that how can you, maybe a mix. We'll start with a mix. But the most important thing is we, as Africans, even the entire world, should have a practice, a landscape. And that landscape defines the pathways for you to go from A to Z. So for us, we are, I don't think Africa typically is transiting, but there will be a mix, And then the problem is the transition in the transition. So when you talk about energy transition, what is the transition in the transition?
Sure.
So it's more or less when a plan, the biggest problem about a plan is when the plan is not in plan. So there is a very sincere need for us to understand the landscape. And so what PANA Holdings is doing is actually taking the entire thing to have what I call the industry practice. An industry practice is more like, in life, we are all created by God. Whether you believe it or not, I'm a Christian, I can be an atheist, but we do understand that there is a purpose for everything. But when you have a purpose, the next thing that will follow the purpose is actually a philosophy. So the world should define energy transition philosophy. And energy transition philosophy should then be broken down to energy transition processes. And how will you get into those processes when you have not actually democratized data? So we're talking about reservoir information to desktop to shipping. So we need to understand, because with the advent of machine learning and AI, there needs to be that aggregation. So my journey as a business, and I call it data refinery, is to see the correlation of the earth, which is talking about the fourth industrial revolution. It's the correlation of the earth to the physical being where we are and to the environment. So when you are right here on Earth, when you are there, there is an interaction between you and environment. So we need to see the interactivity between the fossil fuel, extraction of the fossil fuel, usage of the fossil fuel. That is why I said it depends on which side of the divide, either the supply or the demand side. So for people that are going to be on the supply side, they want to supply. It's a capitalist. But on the demand side, they want to use. So we need to then have a correlation between the resources and then the availability of the resources, processing of the resources, and usage of the resources. Take, for instance, a typical human being. There is no one human being that will continue to eat without urinating. You have to go to restroom. There is no one human being that will eat and without using the toilet. So, but the problem is that the urine that we are wasting, exhausting, has a function. So we then need to use a lot of analysis to understand what I call not circular economy, but cross economy.
Okay.
So circular economy shares a pattern, but the cross economy does not follow a pattern. And that pattern that it doesn't follow is what I think is very essential in the development of the national resources.
Incredible. And do you notice that there's a lot of like-minded companies like yours here at OTC, or?
Yeah, we see a lot of like-minded companies and everybody. I mean, the way I see the industry is that the industry, what I see is like going to a party. When you get into a party hall, the music is playing, but it depends on who is listening. It depends on your mood. So we see a variety of players here, and then, of course, the OTC has been able to sectionalize them, and then we can see which one is relevant for another one. And that is what is more important that we have come here, because it's all about innovation.
Yeah.
So transition cannot happen without innovation. And innovation is actually what you can do with existence of what is existing in a better way. So there are technology innovation, there are process innovation, there are different kinds of innovation. There can be idea-generated innovation. So we as Africans, more or less, is looking at how can you take invention to commercial value. Taking that invention to commercial value is a cross of the innovation, and it has to do with three intersections. The first intersection is the market, and the market is made up of people. So there is a market that will, out of the product of cross, what I call the cross economy, that will utilize the process. But there needs to be a technology. So the market is actually pushing. Okay, I don't want this product, but there are technologies here that they are also pushing. So the aim of people like us is how do we pool the technology? So which means we have market poolers. We pool technology, but to do that you need to have passion, and that is the fulcrum of PANA Holding. The fulcrum of PANA Holding is to set that standard that will be able to coexist all of these three bubbles: passion, which is entrepreneurship; technology, which is invention; innovation, which is understanding the market forces and the technology that is required to accommodate or to be able to elevate or produce tangible results for the market. And that is where the money comes in.
Incredible. How can people find out more information about PANA Holdings?
PANA Holdings, you can find our information is www.panaholdings.com. www.panaholdings.com.
That's PANA Holdings.com.
That is PANA Holdings.com.
What else are you looking forward to seeing here at the conference today?
So what I'm looking for here at the conference is more or less, I want to see aggregators. I mean, we have Society of Engineers, we have NAPE and the rest of them. What I want to see is how can, the entire frame of where we are connect with the Middle East.
Yeah.
So we need that interconnectivity because we have only one world.
Yeah.
But different spheres, depending on the rotation of, the Earth, around the sun. So I want to see global collaboration. I want to see less of regional, politics. So again, America being, large, very massive economy, we need to see that for a collaboration. And collaborations are actually defined by industry standards. So how can we take European standards with the American standards and have a common world? For us, Africa is a little bit of more of a user economy. So we are having that correlation issues. I mean, typically in the flow measurement world, the way Americans see flow measurement is different from the way the Europeans see flow measurement. And hence, there's a little bit of some interaction, and those interactions could be destructive interferences.
Incredible. Thank you so much for your insights. Thank you for being on the Energy Trade Show podcast, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference. And it was a real pleasure to hear you talk about your company.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to OGGN, the world's largest and most listened to podcast network for the oil and energy industry. If you like this show, leave us a review and then go to OGGN.com to learn about all our other shows. And don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter. This show has been a production of the Oil and Gas Global Network.